Lesson 1-5, segments and their measures. Before Euclid, geometry was just shapes. And Euclid is the ancient Greek mathematician. He put all of geometry together. We've really not changed it much since he did it. Most math has changed, but not geometry. And his geometry was the geometry of flat planes. So, anyway, people criticize algebra because it's just numbers, and original geometry was just shape. So how do we put the two together? For example, we have a segment. Give it letters, A, C. It's just a segment. Doesn't have any numbers. Well, sure it does. Just got to put them in there. And this may look familiar from algebra class as a number line. So these subjects will overlap. So let's say B is between A and C. Put it here. Let's say -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's our picture. Now, could we do this and say B is between A and C? The answer is no. It must be a segment. More to the point, the segment has to be straight. So how far is it from A to B? And you might look at it and say, well, that's easy. Or you might look at it and say, I have no idea. Whenever you want to find how far something is, you just subtract. And you take the absolute value because a distance is always positive. So A to B would be -3 minus 2, -5, 5. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people given a number line would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 5 it is. But whichever way you want to do it. How far is it from B to C? Same deal for me. I'm just going to count this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is A to B. BC equals 4. And we would say AB equals 5. Segment length is always positive. How far is it to your house? 10 miles. It's not negative 10 miles back when you get there. It's always positive. Go over that again in a second. How far is A to C? Well, since B is on AC, just add them together. You can see that if you look up here at the number line again. 6 minus -3 is 9. -3 plus -6 is -9, absolute value. Or you can count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's a lot of information. Make sure you stop the recording if you need to understand what I just said. And this is what I just talked about. How far is it to your house? Say 10 miles. And when you get there, how far is it back to school? You'd say 10 miles again. This is always positive. Just like a segment length is always positive. What do we call it when we always take the positive? Call it absolute value. Distance, segment length, always positive. Moving on. So let's pick a place to go. We're in Chicago. We go to Place I enjoy going to in the summer, Cedar Point. About a 5-hour trip at 60 miles an hour. We could guess that this is 300 miles, or we could just do 0, 300. And let's pick 2 more points. Gary, Indiana, or actually Notre Dame's in there. And that's at about 120 miles. Or we could drive all the way to New York, which is, I believe, something like 850 miles. I'm not honestly sure. So that was ND. That was NY. How do we find the distance between the places? Well, I put it on a number line. So let's erase that just for a second. Pretend we don't know. We know that this is 120, this is 180, and this is an additional 550. So how do you find the distance? We just add them up. So from Chicago to New York, already did the math, we would say it's 850. If we knew one of them and had to find another one, we would just subtract. This causes problems for people, so you have to picture it on a number line. Here's an example. What's the distance from D to J? We already did that. -4 minus 2 equals, so DJ equals 6. And FH equals 2. So if we wanted to find a distance from, we already know from D to J is 6. And let's just say we knew the distance from here to here is 2. How do we find the distance from D to H? Subtract 6 minus 2 is 4. Take some practice, you'll get used to it. Last thing, what does it mean for two things to be equal? It means the numbers are equal. What does it mean for two things to be congruent? It means the shapes are the same. So for example, assuming these are the same triangles, but I just flipped them around and did some weird things with them, we would say they're congruent. And that's a congruent sign. But if we were talking about numbers, I'd have to say 3 equals 3. And it's just congruent is geometry's way of talking about shapes. For segments, it's easy because a segment, say it's 3 long, another segment, say it's also 3 long. You know they're congruent. They have the same length. They're congruent because the segment looks like a segment no matter how you set it up. That's it. Fair amount covered here, but doable material, so give it a shot. Good luck.